Welcome back to the Better Than Best Academy. It's your host, Red, and today my guest is nothing short of extraordinary. He is a writer, music producer, all the way across the pond in Manchester, UK. His name is Patrick Jagger, and I'm super excited to get into a interesting conversation with this extraordinary guy. Before we start, I always like to break the ice, Patrick, and I would love to ask you, what would make today's conversation extraordinary?
Wow, that is a tough question. Got me off guard there, Red. I think just to inspire somebody to build their own project, work on their passions, and to hopefully inspire one of your listeners to create a better life for themselves, a happier, healthier life.
Most of my audience might be meeting you for the first time. I would love for you to just kind of share, who is Patrick Jagger?
Oh, be a pleasure, mate. So I'm 34 years old from Manchester, England. I know I don't look it, but yeah, from Manchester, England. I've been for the past 5 years. I've been building my own online businesses, which include writing online, selling music, licensing music, and also an Etsy seller as well.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. What was it that got you into this?
Well, I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, and I've always enjoyed. I'm always twitching to work on passion projects and side projects, because I've never been fully satisfied in my full time employment. I kind of fell into a job which I don't really like. It's just not me. So I kind of have to work on my own projects on the side. So I kind of was forced into it. And then a few years ago in 2020, I lost 3 jobs. I got made redundant or laid off 3 times in 2 years. So that was pretty brutal. So therefore, it just kind of fanned the flames within me to start building my own projects and standing on my own 2 feet.
Man, I love that. And I agree. I've got that entrepreneurial spirit, that itch to follow
Mm.
so many different passion projects. You said that you make music. I'm interested to hear a little bit more of that. Like, what got you started into making music?
Well, that's kind of my trade, if you will. So I've always played in bands. I'm a guitarist, stroke bass player, but yeah, songwriter. So I've been producing music for about 10 years, on and off.
I love it.
So yeah, that's just what it'll never leave me. That I was speaking to a friend the other day about. He was asking, "Oh, you still doing music?" And I'm like, "I think I'll always be doing music." You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think I've realized now that it'll just never leave me. So I can't. I've got too many songs and too many ideas to record.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I totally can relate with that. I actually was a rapper for like 10 years, and obviously I'm still writing music. I don't
Mm.
necessarily like pursue rapping full time because there was a time where that's where my life pivoted. But as you can see behind me, the drum photo and my little green screen. But yeah, I played drums for my church for close to almost 10 years now. So yeah, music has always been a huge part of my life. So I definitely can relate. And I think it's something,
Yeah.
there's just something about, I feel like we were created to create. And some people don't get that. And for some people, it's not music. Some people, it's not art. But I feel like even business is a level of creativity. And I'd
Oh,
love to hear
absolutely.
your thoughts to kind of dive in a little bit deeper in this idea of creativity. When you hear the word creativity, what do you think?
Well, I actually believe that a human being's natural state is a creative state. So if you've nothing, no healing to do, and you've that is how you're either healing or creating. To me,
Yeah.
that's like the fundamentals of it. And so I just feel like everybody has creativity within them, but they just might not have found the right thing for them. Like I said, it could be music, writing, building businesses. It's I think you could even include sport in creativity. You watch. I'm a football fan or a soccer fan, as you might say, and you could be a creative midfielder, couldn't you? So
Yeah.
I think our natural spirit is one of creativity, and it's something that I've I've always personally, I'm not satisfied unless I'm working on a project. So, whether it's music or business, I'm just kind of, I don't know. I feel like that's where we find our fulfillment, and that's what we're meant to be doing. There's this term that you hear, the term the creator economy. I
Yeah,
feel like it's not a new thing. That's the creator economy was born when we were when we were created
seriously.
by the
Yeah, that
creator.
yeah, I love that idea. I think that creativity and healing also are one and the same because I can think back when I was writing a lot more songs than I do get to now. And there was these spaces in my life that the words that I wrote were a healing not only for the people I was trying to reach with the music, but for myself. And
Mm.
I believe that so strongly that like we were created to create. I'm curious, what would your like one big piece of advice be for someone? So say someone's listening to this podcast right now, or maybe they're listening to a clip later, whatever, and wherever it finds them. What would be that one piece of advice you would tell somebody that's wanting to get started in this creator space?
Well, it just to find your inspiration, find whatever inspires you the most. Go after that. So if you whatever you enjoy the most, whatever you're most inspired by, start doing that and start applying and learning to so you can begin to pursue projects and a career in that. So if you love music and you're inspired by music, then start to learn an instrument or start to produce. If you like to write, then I'd suggest to read. So read lots and then start to write. I'd just find your inspiration and go after it, because the space for everybody in this in the creator economy. So everyone can contribute.
I love that. Find your inspiration. I'm curious to hear, Pat, what inspires you to create?
Well, well, like I said, I'm a musician first and foremost.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really inspired by people who are building their own personal brands, like such as yourself, and who are writing on Twitter, creating videos. I just think that's really inspired. I'm inspired by people who are taking control of their own destiny and going out and doing what they enjoy doing, and then which will then eventually lead into a career or a lifestyle where you're happy and fulfilled. So yeah, other people who are creating on YouTube, on Twitter, on TikTok, I find that most inspiring.
I love
I've
it.
not created a YouTube channel myself yet, but it's on the list.
It's coming. I love that. That's so cool. If you could have an honest conversation with the person who has influenced you and your thinking around this creator economy, what would you ask them and discuss with them?
I would ask about how to use your strengths and interest, and to be able to take those strengths and interests and convert them into an offer.
Yeah.
So some sort of product or a service to sell, because I find that is one thing a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
they might to find that offer. So if I had the opportunity to speak with a well-known creator, then that would be it. I'd really want to know how they would go from that, taking that strength, that interest, that passion, and transferring it into an offer.
It's awesome. I'm
Everyone wants to
curious.
live
Yeah.
off their passion, don't they? Everyone wants to get up and do something they love, and be able to feed the family doing what they
Oh, yeah.
enjoy.
That's the goal for so many, especially those listening.
Yeah.
I'm curious, I'm sure the people at home, who would you say are your top 3 biggest influences and inspirations in that creator economy space?
There's a guy called Justin Welsh. I think he's very inspiring. Do you know him from Twitter and
I
LinkedIn?
haven't seen him.
Yeah, Justin Welsh. He's a writer. He does his newsletter called The Solopreneur.
He's
And I think it's called The Saturday Solopreneur. It's
good.
called.
That's cool.
Also, Dan West. who's another writer on Twitter. Do you know Dan?
Yeah, I've seen Dan.
Yeah, just because he's actually doing it. He's doing that.
Sure.
He he's built a business and he's moved to Bali and he's actually living the life. You know, and also just the fact that he tried so many businesses and learned and then took everything he learned, moved to Bali, and now he's living the laptop lifestyle over there.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that.
And then there's a kid called Jay Yang on Twitter. I really like him. Yeah,
Awesome.
he's only young. I think he's 18, 19, and to see what he's done by such a young age is very inspirational.
Yeah, there's some young people, especially on Twitter, and they're
I
just
know.
crushing it. It's so cool. It keeps me young, I feel like. As you've started this journey of building your personal brand and building a business off of your strengths and your passions, I'm curious, what has been some of your biggest challenges and how have you overcome them?
My biggest challenge I found was I suffered from burnout, I had a massive burnout because working full time, parenting, doing all the other stuff what comes with general day-to-day life, building online businesses. So I think the biggest challenge I've faced was managing my time where I'm also leaving time to switch off. I think it's really important to switch off because it's like basically it's a marathon, not a sprint. So if you just go into it too fast, you end up burning out, and then you struggle with once you kind of fallen off and you've burnt out, you need to fan those embers to get going again, and that can take some time. So I think definitely make sure to take some time to rest, even if it's a couple of days a week. Just make sure you have few hours doing relaxing. Have a bath, go for a walk, do some exercise. You
For sure.
got to let your brain switch off, and
Oh, yeah,
that's one thing I've always struggled with. My brain doesn't stop, so many ideas, and yeah, so it's been difficult to manage your time where you're being productive, but you're also not burning yourself out.
for sure. For sure. Man, I'd love to dive in a little deeper on this burnout because I feel like it's such a struggle and a challenge for us that are in this space because I feel like you're in this constant tension of being so hardworking, but forgetting to take care of yourself. Because I mean, it's so easy to do.
Mm.
I mean, a lot of my life up until very recently, when I got very focused and made a priority to find that rhythm of rest, I feel like it's
Yeah.
so essential for us to do that. But I'm curious to dive in and get your thoughts a little bit more on burnout. What does burnout mean to you, and how would you describe your current relationship with it?
Well, what happened for me was I started having anxiety attacks,
Yeah.
or just out of the blue, really. So this was, I'd say, 3 years ago. I remember one day I was in the shower and I literally just had like a panic attack. My first ever panic, just out of nowhere. And I was like, really, it was a strange feeling. I don't know if you've ever had a panic attack,
Yeah.
but just like a wave of emotion
Mm.
just came over me, and I was just like, I was on holiday at the time, in the shower on holiday,
Man.
and I know what it was. I was just non-stop. Just I think at the time I was doing Amazon. I had an Amazon business for a while. I was doing Amazon, working full time on holiday. I don't know. It all got to me, and my body just said no, basically. So yeah, my brain said no and just shut my body down, and it took a long time. It's a long time to recover. I ended up learning a lot about neuroscience and psychology, and kind of understood, and I started to understand really
Mm.
what caused it.
Yeah, for sure. Man, and first off, I'm always grateful for people that share the vulnerability and the side of that
Yeah,
because it's not especially being online. It's so easy for us to just put up our success, our wins, win, 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 and I
yeah,
always appreciate when someone shares that vulnerability. And I can relate 100%. I remember when I started dealing with anxiety, probably it got to its worst like all at once. And it was definitely a reflection of burnout. Because for me,
Mm,
like early 2020, so like right before we went into lockdowns for the pandemic, I was working a
mm,
full-time job. I was about to be a father. So like my wife was pregnant. We were planning for that. And we
yeah.
got into a space where it was like I was going to be stay-at-home dad. And but at the same time, I knew something else is in me. Like, you got that entrepreneurial spirit. At the time, I hadn't really started out. Like, I started my podcast in 2018. So I was like kind of podcasting, but nothing super serious. And everything shut down. So, like, I wasn't like serving every Sunday at my church, so that kinda went away, but I was helping produce, like, the online stuff because I went to college for music production, so, like, I get where you're coming from in that space, and I was helping
Mm,
our sound guy produce a lot of our online worship experiences. So I was doing that, I was into this full-time job still, had a kid on the way, so we were planning that, we were, like, nesting and doing all those things,
mm,
while also the world's technically shut down. So I never had to leave work. And for someone who can be a workaholic, I was like, great. I never have to waste time to go to work. Work's right
yeah,
here. And I just like went in overdrive where a lot of people scaled back. I went to overdrive. And then sure enough, I went to overdrive and I actually left my full-time job to be full-time dad and try to start my own thing, which was a
yeah.
little early. Should have waited a little bit, but you live and learn. And a year into having him, so we like early 2021, and I was full time with him, like world starts opening back up. My wife goes back to her job as a hairstylist, and it's just me and this little bundle of life that I'm responsible for. I can remember like having to take walks and literally having panic attacks on those walks. I physically felt ill, even though it
Mm.
was all mental because my brain just couldn't shut off. So I definitely can relate to how a result of burnout is anxiety, and then you have to trail back. I'm curious, you battled that anxiety. What was some things that you might have think were the triggers for that? Like, can you identify any specific triggers or factors that contributed to your burnout?
Definitely. Not taking care of myself, trying to do too much, not finding time to see my friends and see myself kind of just full on. So just not finding time to do the things you enjoy, Those things that you when you were a young child, what did you enjoy? Sometimes you gotta go right back to your childhood and just start doing those things what you enjoyed. So yeah, spending too much time doing things I wasn't particularly joyful about. And also something just slightly out of the box as well. Not not breathing properly because
That's a
I've
good
learned
one.
a lot I've learned a lot about
That's a
breathing.
good one.
Yeah, that Andrew Huberman.
Yeah,
He's
he's the
yeah,
man.
that yeah, really good stuff. So once I've learned, I feel like I've really improved at breathing, and that makes such a difference. Like breathing through your nose and not stopping mouth breathing, and that really helped. I definitely recommend to just spend time to watch a few Andrew
Yeah.
Huberman videos. They're great.
Andrew
Really,
Huberman,
really
Wim
good.
Hoff. There's a few great ones out there, but yeah,
Yeah,
that's a highly recommend that because if you can both focus on your breathing and learn to breathe properly, man, that's such a life changer, and I can agree. That's
it
really
really is. Take it
one
for
of the
granted,
things.
every breath. Yeah,
Yeah,
like every
oh man. Curious, what are your personal boundaries and limits when it comes to your work, relationship, and self-care? Since we're on this topic of breathing and stuff.
well, I meditate daily these days. So
Oh yeah,
either before bed or when I get home from I work 35 hours a week full time, well, almost full time.
yeah,
So I meditate as soon as I get home. It all depends on where my daughter is.
yeah.
So,
I get that.
uh, yeah, yeah. We've got our kids are the same age. So was yours born in 2020?
Yeah, yeah, so I have 2.
Right.
I have a son that's, yeah, 2.5, so he was born in October, the end of October in 2020.
Oh, right. My
And then
daughter was August 2020.
oh,
So,
nice, yeah, so they're right there, and then, yeah, my daughter was born this past February, so she's 4, 5 months
oh, right.
5 months now, yeah. So it's
Wow.
definitely been an adjustment.
Yes.
I'm grateful for my wife's schedule of being off on the weekends so I can schedule my podcast on
Yeah.
Fridays and Saturdays and stuff like that.
Cool. Well, it's difficult to find that time
Oh, yeah.
for the dad to meditate and take some self-care, but, it doesn't even take that long.
No.
You could spend 10 minutes
Yeah.
in a good deep breathing exercise and if you do it consistently daily, it makes such a difference. Give it 30 days to, if you're feeling stressed out and you feel like you you've got a lot of brain fog, then just try a deep breathing exercise for 10 minutes a day. You do it whenever you can. I personally do when I get home from work or just before bed, and it really settles me down.
I love that. Yeah, I think it's so interesting, and I'm so glad that meditation is getting the light of day that it is, because
Yeah.
it's so important. And it's funny because as high achievers, as entrepreneurial type people, as even creatives, with these minds that are always going, it almost seems like counterproductive for us to just sit still and do nothing. But it's
Yeah.
so life changing. Yeah. So I'd say I've always been also I'm into cold exposure. So ice baths. It started with cold showers, and then I got the little portable ice bath. I've been doing ice baths daily for over 100 days straight now, and it's just life
Wow.
changing. And what I
Wow.
like to do is I like to do it so first thing when I get up, I get the ice in so it gets down to the right temperature. I'm in Texas and it's in my garage, so sometimes that's a lot of ice. And then I'll hop in the cold plunge for about 5, 6 minutes. It's in the cold plunge that I'll do a meditation. And right now I've been doing these guided meditations from Spotify.
Yeah.
For me, they're kind of based off of also on my faith in Christianity. So it's really interesting. So I've been doing these cold plunges with the meditation, and it's amazing to see that, because obviously you're getting the crazy benefits, and I believe it's the deliberate cold therapy that
Mhm.
helped me kick the anxiety, and but the combination of focusing on the breath and the cold therapy is this crazy thing. And I believe when it comes to these routines and these self-care routines, if we can stack a couple of things, it's like the compound effect. Like if you can, and I mean, for some people, I understand like the barrier to entry can be too high. Obviously, not everybody's got access to a cold plunge, but even so, even just a quick cold shower can make a difference. Or like you said, even like 10 minutes of meditation. You could go to YouTube or Spotify or whatever you listen to and type in meditation and you'll find something. But yeah, I think those are beyond crucial for finding that and reinforcing those
Yep.
those boundaries. And I love that whole idea around that.
Yeah, you've gone for the double whammy there, haven't you, with
Oh,
the
yeah.
deep getting it all. That's a very productive way of practicing self-care. But
Yep,
just touching on what you said about linking your faith in with it.
for
It's
sure.
funnily, I started doing frequency meditation.
Mhm.
So have you ever heard of the solfeggio frequencies?
Yeah,
Yeah, so I've started doing that, 174 hertz to be
yeah,
exact. Listening to basically like deep healing frequencies, but they're all they've to kind of trigger the certain certain emotions, certain feelings within your body. Certain frequencies can get your lymphatic system going, your blood circulating, and I've done a lot of research into that recently. And yeah, it was only last night. I did a hertz healing meditation. So interesting.
yeah. That's the whole idea of the frequencies is fascinating to me because
Mhm.
I'll put on some frequencies too. I go back and forth. So it's like every other day. So when I'm in the cold plunge, it's a form of meditation,
Mm.
either with a guided meditation or it's one where I'll throw on some of those frequencies. And I'm
Yeah, yeah.
sitting in there, which is super, it's a double whammy for healing because it's like
Oh
your
yeah,
body's literally healing for the cold, but it's also healing with the frequencies. And then I'll
yeah.
do affirmations, declarations, so like I am statements. I do a couple of those because there's such power in those as well.
Oh,
And I think
definitely.
just tying those in, because it's so interesting, because when you're doing something like deliberate cold exposure, you're like shocking your physical, and
Mm.
when you're shocking your physical, you're almost like taking
Calming.
control of it. Yeah, like dominating it in a way where your
Oh.
spiritual kinda is able to take over, and it's really
Mhm.
interesting to see the correlation of both. Because like, I love the quote where we're spiritual beings having a human experience, not vice versa. And I love that idea. And I think that's great that you're getting into the
Yeah.
meditation and the frequencies.
Yeah, and the with the affirmations, if you do them in the mirror,
Oh, yeah.
as you're triggering the mirror neurons.
Mhm.
So, and that it goes straight into your brain that way, and can be even more effective. But I'd like to just emphasize that you got to keep it up for at least 30 days.
Oh, yeah.
You can do like have one cold shower. It's,
Exactly.
you,
It's the
you,
consistency of it.
yeah, because your body has created and your brain have created habits over many, many years. So to get out of those habits, you've got to take I like to say at least 30 days to try and build a new habit.
Yeah. And don't do it just because it's trendy. Like, that's what kind of
Mm.
frustrates me about, like, I think it's great that cold exposure is being pushed to the forefront, and a lot of people that wouldn't have done it
Mm.
would do
Yeah,
it. But I mean,
yeah.
like, I grew up an athlete in
Mm.
school. So, like, I knew
Mm.
about cold exposure as like a high school kid and like even into college. And it's interesting to me. Like, I love Facebook memories sometimes. Sometimes they're so cringy, but I saw one and it was like 12 years ago, and it talked about taking an ice bath because I had like a leg day the day before or something. And I'm
Yeah,
like, you don't even, and it frustrates me because when you start thinking about like when something becomes trendy, then it becomes almost comical. And
yeah,
you're like, it's kind of frustrating. But yeah, I think it's so essential to, like you said, the consistency. And
yeah,
it goes back to the barrier of entry of do what you know you can. Because even if it's like working out, like my former boss, I love on her podcast and her YouTube channel, she would always say, don't look at the hour you don't have, look at the 10 minutes you do. And it's so easy for us to think, oh, it's going to take so long to do this. But even like you said with the meditation, you've got 10 minutes somewhere in your day. And if
yeah,
you can't invest 10 minutes into your life, then I guess your life doesn't matter enough to you, right? And it seems crazy to say, but I truly believe that that's important because it's when we're able to first show up for ourselves. And you hear a lot of people, they'll be like, you can't pour from an empty cup, or, like you've got to fill your cup over up. And I think that's so important to the point of overflow. And that's how I feel. If you can make the adjustments in your schedule to make a priority to make sure that you're at your top level of performance, your top level of mental, physical, all those things, then you're able to impact others. Then you're able to show up for others. And that is like so important, I think, as a father, even because if we're supposed to show up and care for our wife and care for our kids, if we're showing up on 50%, we're not giving them the best. What has your journey been like juggling growing your online business and brand while being a father?
well, it's she obviously she comes first, so once but a lot of it gets done once she's in bed, and at nap time and at weekends. So, we're quite lucky where we have help
For sure.
from from the in-laws, from my wife's parents especially. But a lot of it gets done once she's in bed. But I know a lot of dads to be or guys who are friends or or ladies who are wanting kids, who they'll say to me something like, "And what's it like when you have a child? Do you still get time? I don't want to have kids yet because I want to do this and I want to do that." What I've found since my daughter came along is that I'm actually more motivated than I was before, because everything I do now is
Yeah.
is for her and for us. So I'm actually more motivated. Yeah, there is less time, but in a way, all you waste less time when you've
Yeah.
got a child, because before, I don't even remember what I used to do when before she came along. I was sitting around and wasting time, but now I don't know. It's almost like now she's here, I've got more of a purpose, and I find I'm more motivated to make myself happier, so I can make her happier and make myself healthier. So I'm there for her, and I'm no use to anybody if I'm burnt out and feeling down. So yeah, so to any future parents or anyone who's thinking that they want kids, but they're concerned about the time and, and whether they'll have the motivation. I've found that like the opposite has happened. I thought, oh, I'm not going to have any time work on my music, work on my writing. But I do find time because I have to be more productive and I'm more motivated now.
I love
But
that.
yeah, a lot of it gets done when she's in asleep.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you said that you don't know what you did with
Oh,
all
really?
that extra time. And I think the same thing. Like I'll be talking to people and they're always, I don't have time to do this, this, and that. And they're like single, no
Yeah.
kids. And I'm
No.
like, are you sure you don't have time? How much
Mm,
time are you wasting? And it's amazing how much we realize that idea of when we have the responsibility of taking care of another human that
mm,
like, and I didn't think I could love another human as much as
mm.
as I do my kids, and it's so interesting how when you find that and you experience that, how it truly come camera. Get this figured out. There we go. Okay. And it's funny how you find that there is time and you find that motivation is a whole new level. And so many
Yeah.
people, and I hate to see it on social medias and stuff, they're so against having kids, but there's something beautiful about having kids and building a legacy and living a legacy. And oh,
Yeah.
I could talk about that all day,
Yeah.
but I wanna kind of shift a little bit. And I love asking this next question. I'm sure you've probably heard it. It's one of those questions that's getting popular. But I'd love for you to take a moment and picture you're at the end of your life and you've achieved all the things you want to achieve. You've lived like the top level life that you could ever imagine. And you're on your deathbed. What do you want people to remember you for?
I- I'd have to say being a good dad, just being a good dad and making a difference to my family's life where I've improved their life. I've made them proud of me and their life as I've done something to improve their life and especially my daughter. I just want to be remembered for her that she's happy and she loved me.
For
Simple
sure.
as that.
I love that.
It's one of them ones when when you're sick or all you want is to be better again, isn't it? So it's kind of if you think about when you're ill or if you're on your deathbed, none of the material things matter, do they? All that matters is your family, your friends, and so if you, I just want to be remembered for that. I've made my daughter happy and healthy and gave her good opportunities, and any other kids what might come along.
Love that. And I believe you are. I don't know you much, but just hearing your heart and the way that you talk about your daughter and the way you just light up, I feel like you're already doing that. And I just want to
Oh,
encourage
cheers!
you with that because I know as a father we don't hear that enough. It's
I know.
it's easy to be, oh, it's just old dad over there just doing what he can. But I really believe that there's a whole generation of fathers that are very present and being what they need to be for their families. And I believe that you're probably one of those because just like we rescheduled this, we were originally going to do this last week, and then you had something come up with your daughter, and you did that, and that means a lot. That says a lot because a lot of people would just try to make something work because it's an opportunity, but you said no. The family's coming first.
Mm,
We can reschedule this, and we did, and here we are. And I think that there's something to be
yeah,
said about
yeah,
that. And I believe that you showing up as a father is gonna take you so much further and make such a bigger impact than anything you could ever do with a song or anything you could ever do with your music. So I just wanted to encourage you with that little bit.
yeah. Well, everything I do is for her now. Before she came along, I almost like I don't want to say selfish, but everything I did was just for me. And now I
Oh, yeah,
look back and I think, like, I was tired of just looking after me. You know what I mean? I wanted to focus on giving, giving rather than just creating for myself. It was all very I was definitely ready to be a dad. So, but yeah, everything I do is to make her life better ultimately. Kind of, I don't need much, mate. I'm happy with the basics. You know, don't
Love
get
it.
me wrong. I'd like a Lambo and a nice and a nice house, but
For
I'm not
sure.
really. I'm pretty basic guy. I'm happy with I don't spend much. I'm just happy with nice food, family, friends,
Sure.
and that's all I need. So
Yeah. The main thing, huh?
my books, do a
Yeah.
lot of
The
reading.
books. I love that. I love it, Pat. Well, I'm curious as we kind of start to wrap up. I would love to just give you a second to, and I'll get your information from that form, but take a second and just share where people can find you, connect with you, because I'm sure someone on this podcast is like, this Patrick guy, I like him. I want to hear his music. I want to see his writing. So just take a second and kind of share where the people can find you.
The best place to find me would be on Twitter. So it's Pat Jagger, and you can find me on Instagram as well. Same handle at it's Pat Jagger. Yeah, so it'd be great if anybody listening would like to contact me for a chat and so we can connect. That'd be great.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. Well, one final question before we stop the recording is, and I love to ask this because I can ask questions all day. That's what I love to do. And after this, actually, I'm a guest on another podcast, so that kind of makes me sweat a little bit. But I prepare for that by asking my guests, "Do you have any questions for me?"
I'd like to know. I'd like to know what your plans are for the future. Do you plan to have more kids? Do you have any new businesses coming up, or you continuing with to just build the podcast and your TikTok? Because your TikTok, by the way, is superb. You're doing a great job with that.
And I
So,
appreciate
is
that.
that what are your plans for the next 12 months? Say,
Man, I would say, well, definitely when it comes to the family and the kids, I think we're set with two. Now, obviously, if whatever happens and we ended up having another one, that would be okay. It would be a little stressful. I definitely I feel like with 2, I'm able to be the most present I can. Now, this is me saying this,
Mm,
and it's the future. I have another one. I'll probably be the same way. But and then as far as the business goes, yeah, I'm really interested in building this podcast the and I appreciate the kind words for the TikTok. And yeah, ultimately just building this kind of coaching practice of helping,
yeah,
men beat burnout, creative men beat burnout, leave their 9 to 5s because I know how that feels. But ultimately helping others really discover their identity because that's what I went through in this journey. Shoot, I'm still going through that journey. I think we all are always constantly getting that, but just helping be that guide, being that partnering with people to see that you can try to do life alone and you can
mm,
get fairly far fast, but you're not gonna get really
yeah,
far and you're not gonna be super fulfilled because you're probably gonna burn out. You're probably going to
mm,
get into these spaces of being overwhelmed and you might not be at your full potential. And like the Better Than Best Academy is that idea of having these conversations of a lot of
mm,
times we can't see 360. I always like to say that. Like my son could have stuck a kick me sign on my back. And I wouldn't know it until someone came behind me and kicked me, or they took it off and said, "Hey, you got a kick me sign." And I feel
yeah,
like my business and my coaching consulting is like that. It's like I really want to come and provide and hold that space for people to come to realization of their full self and what they were created to create. And that's kind of
mm,
where my mind's at, my meaningful mission, because I really want to help
right,
impact people with that because I know what it's like to be the opposite. I know what it's like to
yeah,
wake up and dread going to a job that you hate, or even it's a job that you feel like you're stuck in because it's safe. You've got
mm,
a decent salary, it's comfortable. But what's on the other
yeah,
side of that? What's on the other side of the comfortable? Like if you could step out of
mm,
your comfort zone, I feel like we all have greatness inside of us. And it sounds so kind of cliche to say and kind of rah-rah motivational, but I truly believe that. Like we've been created to really make an impact. Uniquely
Mm.
us. Like Pat, I couldn't say the words or make the music that you make, and just like vice versa.
Yeah.
And I just really want to partner with people, have more of these conversations with interesting
Yeah.
people, and just really connect and try to make the world just 1% better.
Yeah. Oh, well, you're doing a good job, man. Love the podcast. So yeah, keep it up.
I appreciate
I
it.
have one more question for you.
Yeah, what's up?
It might be off the top of your head, who's your favorite drummer? Because I know you're a drummer, aren't you?
Who's my favorite drummer? There's
Off the
so
top of
many.
your head. Yeah, there's gonna be a
Uh,
lot in there. Do you like rock or is it more soul or
Man,
hip?
I pull influences from so many different people. Like, I
Yeah.
love Questlove, I love
Just
him.
about to say Questlove, I bet you like.
Yeah, yeah, Questlove's crazy, and there's a
Yeah.
few kinda, like, not super well known, like, they're on
Yeah.
TikTok and YouTube. There's this
Yeah.
one metal guy, and he's got this huge beard, and
Mm.
the ability he has to be so fast, double kick, his hands are
Yeah.
fast, it's mind-blowing, and it's like
Mm.
he'll play, and he'll, like, drink coffee with one hand and just be, like, killing it,
Really?
and I'm like, effortless, and that just blows my
Mm.
mind. There's that guy, man, and there's so many, like, obviously, rest in peace Taylor from the Foo Fighters, he's amazing as well. Like, there's
Yeah.
so many greats out there. It just kinda depends the mood, I think, too.
Yeah, I like all genres, so yeah. I could choose Ringo and then I
Yeah,
could choose
Ringo's great as well because he was so innovative. Like,
yeah.
I loved someone was, like, doing an impression of Ringo, and he was explaining them writing songs, and it's like, "You could have played this," and it's, like, the most basic, like, kept the time, was very solid foundation, but Ringo was
Mm.
like, "No, Imma play this instead, it's much more
Yeah.
interesting." And it's, like, that
Yeah.
creativity, like, I love to pull from the creativity of not just being what's seen like, the unorthodox approach. I love that.
Oh, well, Ringo's a perfect example of
Oh,
that.
yeah. Even his life, he lived that.
Yeah.
Like, and I thought that
Yeah.
was so cool. But, yeah, there's so many great drummers. I could
Yeah.
I could sit there and think about drummers and watch
Yeah.
drummers all day.
Yeah.
But, man, Pat, I've appreciated our conversation. It's been great, and I feel like there was a ton of value on a different level. It was refreshing. It wasn't just because you've seen podcasts that are very almost surgical and scholarly to the point where it's hard to kinda delve into the things that you really could apply to your life, and I feel like there's tons of practical tips and advice, and even just it was entertaining to hear your story and see where you're coming from, and I'm definitely rooting and cheering for you to do all
Thanks.
you can do, and don't be a stranger. We'll definitely stay connected,
Yeah.
and we can wrap it up. If you could wrap it up, what is one thing you would say to someone right now? One word.
Create.
Create. I love
Just
it.
create.
Just
Yeah.
create.
Yeah, and hit me up on Twitter.
Yeah. Hit him up. Hit Patrick up on Twitter. Follow him. Connect with them. Actually connect with them. And I think it's interesting. I'm recently back on Twitter, and that's how we connected. I
Yeah.
almost wrote it off completely just because I wasn't super into it. So it was nice to get back on Twitter because I feel like there's a lot of community aspects going on there that
Yeah.
some of the other ones may lack.
Oh,
But yeah,
definitely.
definitely give Patrick a follow on Twitter. Give me a follow on Twitter and all the other places as well. But you'll be able to see all his information in the description and the show notes, wherever you're listening, watching that. All the usual things that we say here. But with that, I will stop the recording